Hello, welcome back to Sid Meier's Civilization 3 Conquests. We are in the Macedonian Campaign. The Carthaginians have a pretty big army. We're in the Rise of Rome scenario. Celts and Scythia have declared war. When I was playing this game as a kid, I had no idea about the Gauls and the history between Rome and the Gauls, and I got great joy in telling all my friends that the Celtish people are originally from France. They didn't seem to care, but I enjoyed talking about it. But 19 turns left. I think we're probably going to win. Carthaginians may be able to do something to us. My goal is to drive to Alesia and take that city. And because that's what Caesar did. He took Alesia, and I think that's the reason Alesia is the capital here. I don't believe it had any sort of significance to the Gaelic people. See, Gaelic, that's why they speak Gaelic in Scotland, is because it's from Gaul. I reckon. I don't really know. But Gaul, Celts. The Celts were a wide-spanning people, and it's difficult to nail down what a Celt is. But there's a theory that there's a Celtish tribe in, like, Asia somewhere. I don't really know the whole theory, but in the, there's a fan scenario for Civ 3 called Test of Time. And it sort of sets things up where they are, but it sets them up at year 0. Russia's probably the easiest one to play, next to maybe the Iroquois, because they have so much land and they're largely left alone. Europe is a battlefield, which is where the Celts are. So the Celts are set up a bit in France, a bit in Ireland, and all that. But there's also a Celt city in Asia, which I think references that theory. The game also has dinosaurs, Indian tribes, and, well, the Indian tribes aren't weird, but there's barbarians that are actually the Indians, and they have huge powers. They have, like, this game has bars of health instead of their strength sort of going with their health. Well, they don't have hit points. I mean, they do have hit points, but they have like 5 hit points and 3 hit points. And your veterancy status determines your number of hit points rather than your upgrades. So these ones, and your hit points can be set. So these units, these Native American units, have many hit points, like 12, which is a lot, because most units, they come out with 3. Some have an additional hit point as like a buff for the unit, and then more hit points you get to 4, and then 5 hit points, or 5 and then 6 for the buffed units. Hit points for the upgrades as you become more of a experienced as veteran and elite. So those ones have more, like 12 hit points, which is a lot and makes it hard to kill. But there's also in Nevada Elvis, which is funny, and in Africa there are dinosaurs, which is funny. And that scenario does not have America, which is weird, because I love playing as America in this game, and I love the modern age. Most people don't really think of Civ as a game about the modern age, but I do. You just start way back, and then you build up to the modern age. But the modern age is really where the game plays out for me. That's the part I like. I like the plains. The plains are fun. There used to be, in the vanilla Civ, they changed this for the expansion here, because they have actual paratroopers that just paradrop on their own. But in the vanilla Civ, there's Peace with Rome. Very good. In the vanilla Civ 3, there was, you had to do something with helicopters, and I didn't play it that much, and I haven't replayed it in the way I have the final Civ 3 Conquest here, because I love these scenarios. But I would like... I did try to open some games, but again, those are the conquests, with the conquest rules, with the new paratroopers. I tried to do double your pleasure, and I think I played a whole game of that Test of Time as Russia, which I said was the easy one. But again, that Test of Time thing doesn't have America, which I think would have been the most fun, and most people think that just America doesn't count, because it's not an ancient civilization. It does have the Iroquois, which work pretty much as America, since there's no, unique abilities. I guess you could just say Iroquois is America. It doesn't really matter. Which that's not entirely incorrect. Would have been interesting if the Iroquois had become the U.S. Anyway, instead of the colonies, the British colonies. Anyway. So, driving to Elysia, trying to get more scores so that even if the Carthaginians come for us, we'll be ready, and they won't be able to take enough score by the time the game is over. Today's topic, which we're finally to, is the Animorphs, books 1 through 10. I've been rereading the Animorphs, and it's amazing. And I wrote on what the general theme of the stories are. And what it is it's about the difference between who you are and who you seem to be. And this is done with the morphing, the fact that the kids morph into animals. Oh, and there are spoilers all over here, because not just for the first 10 books, because I know how this whole series ends, and I'm going to be talking about that. So again, the morphing is about that. It seems like an animal, but it's actually a person. And then there's the bad guys, the Yerks. They get into your brain and control your mind, and you seem like just a normal person, but you're not. You're a controller. So the mind control is people seem to be normal people, but they're actually aliens trying to take over the world. But the major thing that hits that theme about the difference between who you are and who you seem to be is the fact that the books are told from different perspectives. Which is the main thing. Hold on, where was I? And the two major ones that I've noticed in the first 10 books are Rachel and Jake. Rachel, everyone sees her as like this big battle queen, and if she didn't have battle queen, warrior princess, battle queen, maybe that's how it goes. But they see her that way, and they think, oh, she was born to fight this war. But what she really wants is for there to be no war. If there's a war there, she feels she has to fight it, but she'd rather there not be a war there and her to live a peaceful, normal life. In the 7th book, her dad, we find out, I think we knew before, but it's a lot about her dad being divorced from her mom, and she doesn't want that. She just wants the normal life without war, without divorced parents, which is cool. And the main one, who's different, is Jake. Everyone sees Jake as like this nice guy, leader person, and the arc sort of throughout the series is that he becomes much more ruthless to defeat the Yerks. But if you look at these early books, he's already ruthless. He's already willing. I mean, he doesn't even think twice during the 6th book when he boils all the Yerks alive. And he's just willing to do that. And it sort of justifies it in the books by saying he's doing it to save his brother Tom. That's all he really cares about. He'll do anything to save his brother. But this is where the big spoiler is. At the end of it, he kills Tom. And so the thing he was fighting for, the reason he was being so ruthless, ends up being destroyed by his ruthlessness. And I wish I had more examples, but I really don't. I could think of some, but I'm not gonna waste my time. So the other characters, my favorite character, my favorite of the four main ones when I was reading it the first time was Marco. He was cool. Is this smart alecky guy? It was really, I liked him. So we're taking these cities. Yeah, we're really going into Gaul. We just have so much more power. If you really focus on the barbarian, they're annoying where you're trying to take on your other major power, but if you really focus, you can crush them. That was the mistake I made in the very first game I played, is I think I focused on Gaul rather than Carthage. And eventually Carthage built up their military and came and attacked me, and I couldn't deal with it because I was too focused on Gaul. And I hated navies, and I still do in Civ 3. Navies aren't very good. And this is a very Navy Civ, and that's one of the things that makes it one of the hardest scenarios. Tobias and Axe, those are really fun ones, really interesting, and they're different. Tobias is a not lit. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's stuck as a hawk. And Axe is the Andalite. So those are interesting. They're sort of minor characters. They don't get as many books as the other ones. But they're fun. They're the best reads as far as the books go. They're the ones that are very difficult to put down. Are the Tobias and the Axe books. But the one I'm really loving is Cassie. That's the one I'm loving this time around. And to like these books, you really have to like animals. And in order to do that, you have to get... And this book allows you to sort of get into the mind of an animal. I mean, it's not realistic in any way. Because we don't know how animals think, now do we? But it's interesting. And we have good guesses about how animals think, and that's fun. And there's some of the stuff that was thought to be right at the time, but we now know to be wrong. I found 2 examples, but I can only remember one, and that is the notion of alpha wolves, which don't really exist. In fact, what I heard is that the guy who came up with the idea of alpha wolves spent the rest of his life trying to convince people there's no such thing as an alpha wolf. Oh, crap. The Scythians are coming. The Scythians are coming. The Scythians are coming! I wish we knew more about Scythia. I think I've said this before, but the Wikipedia page on Tomyris, the leader in Civ 6 of Scythia, is I think about everything we know about Scythia. I think it's been mentioned, from what I can gather, it's been mentioned in 2 ancient sources, and that's really it. Surely there's some archaeology being done that's been done. I don't know. I would love a book on Scythia. And the Animorphs books, what I've noticed is they tend to be structured in the same way, and there's 4 main categories they go through. One, it opens up with what I call a frivolous morph. It's where they use their morphing powers to do something that is through varying degrees frivolous. Rachel morphs to scare away some creepy guy that's following her. Tobias is already morphed, but he tries to save a hawk. Cassie, I forget what happens to number 4. Oh, Cassie morphs a squirrel, just to see what it's like. Just because she's interested in learning about squirrels. She'd think it might be fun to be a squirrel. And that's one of the great things about Cassie, is that she just loves the morphing. And that was, because when I was doing my research and trying to figure out which one is which, that was the one I had to go back and read a lot to remember. And figure out, well, what is she doing here? It took me a while to figure out what she was doing with the squirrel morph. She was just having fun and learning. She wasn't really, there was no other real purpose to it. Marco morphs a gorilla to save some guy getting mugged. Jake, this is part of his ruthlessness, I guess, is that his quote-unquote frivolous morph is a cockroach to test it for battle and see how well it will be to morph. But he's doing it in a situation where he really shouldn't. But that's about as frivolous as it gets. He's so focused on the war in a way that the others, even Rachel, are not. And then Rachel morphs an elephant to scare the guy at the circus, to make him be nicer to the elephant at the circus. Axe morphs a human to learn about humans. Cassie morphs a rat to figure out why she's not going through the maze that she has for a science experiment. And Marco morphs a dog to go see an Alanis Morissette concert. And those are the first 10, because the first book didn't have one, because they can't morph yet. And then they go through an espionage phase where they figure out what the Yeerks are doing, although usually it's almost always Tobias comes in and says, "Oh, I saw something, because I'm a hawk, I see things." And that's the sort of when they learn about what the Yeerks are up to. But then they do espionage to get more information about what the Yeerks are doing. They morph into some sort of espionage. And then there's an existential crisis. Rachel has trouble with her family life and just wanting the war to end. And Marco, his mom, is actually the controller for Visser 1. And he doesn't want to fight the war, but once he finds out his mom is in it, he's in it. And after book 5, when he finds out about his mom, he is the most gung-ho about fighting the war, even more so than Rachel. And sort of after book 5, he in a way he hides behind masculine bravado, so they don't know how much he wants to fight. And he pretends it's just, masculine bravado, but it's really he wants to beat the Yeerks. And then Cassie's all worried about animals and peace and love and happiness and harmony, and she's worried about whether the war is right to fight, whether we're right to fight Yeerks and to kill people just because they have Yeerks in them, or to kill Hork-Bajir or Taxons just because they have Yeerks in them. And she wonders a lot about that. And the best one was the third one with Tobias. His existential crisis was about becoming a human and becoming a hawk. Which one is which? Which one is really him? Is he a human or is he a hawk? And it's so good. And it's a bit of a weird thing in that one, where he goes into the mall to see Rachel when he's having his crisis. He's gone crazy. And people are like, "Oh my god, what's a hawk doing in the mall?" But really, only Rachel and the rest of the Animorphs are there, and they really know. And Rachel's having some sort of exposition, some sort of gymnastic exposition. I think Scythia is about to take Constantinople, Byzantium, Istanbul. Oh no. Doesn't matter that much, I don't think. I mean, it's the way I get from one continent to the other, but that's how it's even that productive. I could just, the things on that continent, I'll just go and attack Constantinople with them. And if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But I can keep up the siege of Gaul with just Greece. I remember reading The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire when Alaric was in Greece, and I had to go to work, and I didn't want to stop reading. Oh, it was so good. The bit with Alaric in Greece, forcing the Romans to build the arms that will allow him to take Rome. That's an amazing bit of the book. Back to the Animorphs. Most of the Animorphs missions are failures. And that's the thing that a lot of things have trouble with giving because a lot of things are structured where At the beginning of it, the bad guy, Harry Potter for one, at the beginning of it, the bad guys are not that powerful. But then they slowly gain power throughout the book. But throughout the series. But the good guys have to sort of, quote unquote, win at the end of each book. And yet, the next book, the bad guys come back even more powerful after their loss. Which isn't actually realistic. It's what happened in World War One. Germany was more powerful in defeat than France was in victory. So it's not that unrealistic, but I don't know, it doesn't really work out that well in most things I read, including Harry Potter and Star Wars. But this one does it well. It creates satisfying endings, because at the end, most of the time, they lose. The Yerks get off. I mean, they've maybe put a dent in them a bit. But most of the time, the Yerks are actually fairly successful. And that was it. Bye!